All right, another installment of a helpful clarifying comment. I think there's a third word in there, but another installment of that. First one about air fryers. A lot of people mention, suggest I should get an air fryer. I hear good things about them. I'm trying to carry fewer things with me, not more. And having the raw steak, a lot of people said this when I had the raw steak that Kansas gave me after March Madness weekend. I almost never have raw meat with me. I have canned chicken, canned tuna, sardines, canned salmon, have rotisserie chickens, pre-cooked sausages. There's not much that's ever raw, so I would almost never use it. And I prefer things like seared rather than steamed. Things I put in the rice cooker as the rice is finishing, but the trade-off is worth it because I don't want to carry another thing like that. So yeah, if I lived in a permanent place, might get one, might not, but I would at least consider it. What I'm doing now just doesn't make a lot of sense logistically. All right, next one. Here's the big one in this video. Is this a raise to 9 or 6? Some people ask me questions about this. So there was an instance at the Win where there was big blinds 3, there was a raise to 6, and then seat 8 said raise triple and threw in one $100 chip. I'll get to that exact scenario. First, I want to show you this. This is the reason for the rule at Encore and some other places, but I want to show you this first. Okay, so this used to happen a lot. Say one player bets 50. That's the bet. Okay, 10 $5 chips. One player bets 50. This used to happen a lot more. The second player would sometimes announce raise. Say the word raise, so okay, it's a raise, that's clear. How much? After announcing raise, the second player used to slide out the call amount exactly and wait. Think, or for other reasons, not put out the raise amount yet. Now, what did that do? Some people just knew they were raising, didn't know the amount. It was like nothing nefarious going on. But some people were doing this just to gauge a reaction off the first player. The first player knowing there's a raise coming, what is that player doing? How is he moving? What is he looking like? And depending on that, the second player might put out a small number, might put out a big number. Also, say there was a third player in the hand. I don't really have a lot of space here with the camera, but say there's a third player in the hand. The second player might just announce the word raise and then slide out these call chips, hoping the third player, you know, had absolute rags, and as soon as the third player heard the word raise, he would throw his cards in. Now the second player knows the third player is gone. He knows he's heads up in position for the rest of the hand, and now he can think about the raise amount. If he said raise and slid out the call amount, then if the third player showed no interest in folding, maybe he just puts in a min raise because he didn't really like the fact that the third player is still in. If the third player folds and he knows he's heads up in position, maybe he puts in a big raise and really applies pressure to the first guy, knowing he's heads up in position the rest of the hand. So it was deemed in some places a sort of angle to announce the word raise and then slide out the call amount and not put out the raise amount yet. So in some rooms, if you do that now, you've min raised. You have no choice over the amount. If you announce raise and just put in the call amount, you have min raised. So in this example, first guy bets 50. Second player says raise and puts out his 50. He's raised to 100. He has no choice. We're not letting him think about it, gauge other players' reactions. He has raised to 100. He has no choice. Now let's go to that example at Win. Okay, this is what we had at Win. We had the small blind 1. We had the big blind 3. Under the gun, raised to 6. Now, when it got to the girl in the 8 seat, and she said, raise triple, and then threw out this $100 chip. First of all, triple doesn't mean anything, double doesn't mean anything, same bet doesn't mean anything. So forget the word triple. She said raise, and then threw out a $100 chip. Why was that called a raise to 9? Because, say, forget the blinds, say we're on the flop, and someone bet 6. And I throw out a 100. Single oversized chip, that is a call. I didn't say anything, I just threw out this $100 chip facing a bet of 6. I have called the 6. That's it. So, back to the scenario. Small, big, raise to 6. When the 8 seat says raise triple, and triple means nothing, so raise, and then throws this out, because it's a single oversized chip, at Encore, it's as if she said raise, and then put out the 6. And she's thinking and hasn't said the number yet. And this is deemed a legal minimum raise now. And since this player raised 3 more, a legal minimum raise is 9. So, big blind, raise to 6 total, 3 more, raise, throw out a single oversized chip, that's being deemed a call of the 6. And because no amount was said, you don't get the opportunity to think about the amount and gauge other players' reactions. So this is a raise to 9. So that's not the rule everywhere, but that's the reasoning behind it. And Win was very consistent. The dealer said it right away. And then later, when a floor person came over and he was like, the matter was kind of done, but he came over and he knew something had happened and he was getting all the details. When I said that part of the story, he said, okay, raise to 9. So they seem very consistent about it at Win/Encore, although it might be different in another poker room. And last one from Kidwell, but a lot of people said this when I had the video in Council Bluffs when it was like -5 and I was shoveling snow. And I was talking about the 4% rule. The way I started that video was the way the 4% rule was explained to me. Several times it was explained to me what was apparently incorrectly, and good that that's not the way it was like shown to the world, because the way it was explained to me didn't make sense. And I realized it didn't make sense, and I made some adjustments on it, and glad that the adjustments I made are like the true way you're supposed to use the 4% rule. Increase the amount. Year 1 is different than every other year. Year 1, 4% of your money. After that, rising for inflation, not always 4% of your money. So good that the actual rule is out there and people willing to look into it will be following the actual parameters of it. But watched a lot of fire videos like leading up to and during Corona, and every time it was explained in those videos, the people were getting it wrong. That's why I said the way I did in that video in Council Bluffs. That's the way I heard it a lot in 2018, 2019, 2020. And remember, rice is a spoon food.